It's been a few days since I've had the supercharger on now. And I was posting a video every day for 3 weeks, so I was a bit knackered, so I've had a few days off. I'm really pleased with how it went, the supercharger and the actual content I made. I got a lot of good feedback about it and you guys have been asking me a lot of questions and stuff. So I thought I'd better put this video out there because I know I've inspired people to do this. So I'm going to put this video out there to let people know what they're in for if they go down this route. And look, this happened. I'll show you. Come with me. So the Bob Vlogs just hit 1,200 subscribers. I was going to do a video like this when I hit 1,000 subscribers, but then I wouldn't be able to do the little 1,200 trick. So we hit 1,200 subscribers now, so you got it. So thanks for that, because it's you guys that keep me motivated and keep me bringing you content. It's going on the dyno next week, and then I'll be going up the drags with it to test it out. So I'll do a better review after all that, and you'll be able to see the horsepower figures and the times. Hopefully we'll get enough runs in to be able to sort that out, because I've probably got to learn how to launch it now with the extra power and stuff like that. And I don't think this rear tyre is going to cope as well as it did. So was it worth it? Well, for me personally, certainly it was. The Bob Vlog's not about chucking money at things, as I've said before. I'd like to do stuff myself or try and make stuff myself. But this I consider an investment, and it's been a good investment because it's allowed me to make a lot more content, and it's the first stage of the path of where I want to get to with the channel and the bike. So it's also entertained a lot of you. I've had great feedback in the comments, so it has definitely been a worthwhile investment for me. But as far as actually the amount of money it costs to get that amount of power out of it, I reckon it's a good investment. I've seen on forums people saying, oh, for the amount of power you get out of it, you could do it much cheaper. But this has taken an 80 horsepower engine to 130 horsepower. That's 50 horsepower on something which was originally 80 horsepower. So to get that sort of power without doing something like this, it's a hell of a lot of work and a lot of labour, which is going to be expensive. It would have been cheaper for me to put a turbo on and build a system myself. But then this way I've still got the intercooler, I've got the plenum chamber, I've got the pipe work, and I wanted to make a video where I could show people just how good bolt-on performance like this can be and how simple it can be to install. And I did find it very simple to install. I've been an experienced mechanic for a lot of years and I've got a lot of experience with turbo systems, so it was easy for me. But I think anyone who's quite competent could certainly do this, because it is sold as a kit. The instructions are pretty vague, but all the parts were there and they were all labelled, the nuts and bolts are labelled really well, so I knew where everything went together. It was a really fun jigsaw puzzle. But anything I did want to know, I actually got in contact with TTS, who rang me back and told me things I needed to know. Getting the map for it was a little bit more difficult. I think they like to use power commanders, so the maps you find which are available are just for a power commander, but that's probably the easiest way and safest way to do this. But I didn't go down that route. I went the Tune ECU route, so I built my own base map through Tune ECU. And there's going to be a video about how I did that as well. It might already be out by the time you're watching this. So I can't tell you how long it took me because I was filming the whole time, so it did take me a really long time. But I think it could be done in a day. I wouldn't advise doing it that quickly because there's a lot of things you really need to think about. And it's nice to take your time, make a neat job of it, and make it fit well and look good. If you don't know what you're doing, there are a lot of pitfalls you can fall into. You can cause an awful lot of expensive damage if you do get things wrong. So if you're not that confident, maybe it's not for you doing it yourself. So all the parts are absolutely awesome quality. It's a lovely piece of machined billet aluminium, the case and everything like that. I'll show you what's on it now. So here we got the Rotrex C1560 Supercharger, which is bolted to this awesome billet aluminium belt drive and case here. This case replaces the original Triumph case. It has the alternator windings in there, so they need to be swapped over, and then a pulley bolts to the end and then drives the supercharger. This is an 85mm pulley which gives you 9 psi. You can swap this out to a 80mm pulley and that'll give you 15 psi. The supercharger has its own oil system. There's the oil in there and the oil out there, which goes through a one-way valve and then back into an oil cooler round the front here, and then back into the oil tank. That's the oil filler there, that temperature gauge, and this is the oil tank here. And there's an outlet for it here, which then goes into an oil filter and up through to the supercharger. The supercharger doesn't make any whining noise because it's driven by oil, a bit like a torque converter. So that's why this oil system is very important. And the oil is pretty dear as well. So here's a breather line for the oil tank, which goes up under the fuel tank to a catch can there. I've still got to tidy this up and make that a little bit better at the moment. So the compressed air comes out of the supercharger and into the intercooler there. Once the air's gone into the intercooler, it comes out of the intercooler along this boost hose. That's the air filter which goes to the back of the supercharger there. That's the intake for it there. And then it comes into this rather nice plenum chamber here. This plenum chamber has just all been redesigned. It used to be a lot smaller and these pipes were a lot smaller. Now you've got some big 52mm pipes, so plenty of airflow there going into the throttle bodies. There's your blow-off valve or dump valve, whatever you want to call it. This actually lets the charge pressure out when you shut the throttle so that there's not a build-up of compressed air going back through the supercharger. And this is where the ignition switch is now mounted. It used to be mounted under here. But as far as the cost goes, there are other associated costs with it. So depending on what state you live in and the legality of stuff where you live, you may have to get an engineer to check it over. My insurance premium doubled. I got stun tax importing into the country. I wasn't very happy about that. It's going to use more fuel, it's going to put more strain on the drivetrain and your tyres. And probably your driving licence and speeding fines as well. Saying that, is it worth having this amount of extra power on the street? The bike had plenty of power and it was awesome fun before. But having said that, it has improved the torque everywhere, and up higher it's immensely better. It's a really smooth delivery of power. I've rolled the power on through corners, and a couple of times I'm glad I had the actual traction control on. But do you need that sort of power on the street? I don't know, it depends what you do, where you live, what your laws are like and stuff like that. But I love developing things and making things better, and I'm into drag racing, so for me, I definitely want that power. I'm certainly confident now to actually build a turbo system for it, especially with mapping the ECU and stuff like that. So that probably is going to happen. And then once that's up and running, I'm going to do something very special with the turbo system, but I'm not going to tell you what that is. So next stage is to have fun with it, ride it, and see what the limitations of everything else are to start with. And in the meantime, I'll be building my original bobber engine with low compression forged pistons in it, and then I'll be able to put a smaller pulley on and run 15 psi, and apparently that's good for 170 horsepower. So then that really will start to test everything else, including myself. It's got a big thumbs up from me. It's just down to you to decide whether you want to spend that sort of money for the amount of gain you get out of it. It is a lot of gain, maybe too much for the street, I'm not sure. It depends what you want out of your bike and what you use it for. Oh, the other thing, the looks. I love the way it looks, I really do. You can actually get it in black, which is more expensive, but my bike, I figured, had a bit too much black on it already, and I really like this. And people have been saying on forums and stuff, it spoils the lines of a classic bike. Well, maybe it does, but I'm not into the brown leather and the classic looks. I like taking a classic bike and making it look a bit more modern and making it look fast. It's probably quite fast now. So there you go. I've put these videos together for you guys to make your own mind up, and I've really enjoyed doing this. I really love this bike now. I loved it anyway, and I've had a big smile on my face for days. So don't forget to comment, because I will get back to you at this stage while the channel's still small enough to do that. Drop a like, subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and have a great day. I hit this corner at 80 in third.